with Euler from day one. She has also developed a financial ecosystem at Euler. This past March, she was also recognized at a Women in Automotive Leadership Award ceremony conducted by eMobility Plus as the Business Disruptor of the Year. Welcome, Vani, and thanks both of you for joining us today. We look forward to hearing about your journeys and sharing your insights about how to overcome challenges in STEM. Nikita, would you like to start sharing your slide and go ahead?
Sure. Can you?
Yes, we can see.
Can you see me? Can you see the slides? Okay. Thank you very much, Anushila, for the very kind introduction. Good evening, lovely Kalpana fellows. I'm delighted to be here with you all virtually. I think it is a momentous week to address you all. So I start with paying my respect for our 15th President-elect, Srimati Murmu. See, July 21, 2022 will go down as one of the most momentous days in India's 75-year-old history, when a woman belonging to an indigenous tribe is elected president of the biggest democracy of the world, our country. Draupadi Murmu, she has literally broken virtually all kinds of ceilings to become the first one to achieve this highest honor in our country. And she hails from Jharkhand state. So thank you, Vigyan Shala team, especially Dr. Anushila for kindly inviting me, and to my beloved friends Darshana and Vijay, and for this wonderful opportunity to engage with journeys of inspiring women like our president. And it is an honor to share this, let's call virtual stage with the eminent Vani here and have conversations such as what we will have today. So congratulations to all of us, I would say, to begin with, for being able to celebrate this victory of our president-elect, which is an incredible step in the right direction. So on that note, I understand this is a wide spectrum of audience from across STEM disciplines. So I will walk you through my intersectional journey. Looking back and looking forward, I like to see my career as a continually evolving process, a journey and not a destination. Every story is different, every journey is unique. So today I'll reel you in my engineering career, crossing the world of technology and teaching, and putting into context how my environment, education, and expertise plays around in an engineering, education, innovation, and enterprise landscape. So I will be conducting the session by walking you through my natural progression of that intersectional and interdisciplinary career, starting with my academic journey with a focus on PhD and postdoctoral fellowship, life and times at Oxbridge. So with all that, we'll see how all these interests and skills converge, converting my passion into a purpose with my current role at Dyson. So we'll do this by also defining the engineering that is all around us, what 21st century engineers are meant to do, what reimagining engineering education means. So this, I hope, will help you gain some insights, draw some inspiration that might help you navigate your own path as a female in STEM. And with that, we'll wrap up, opening up to hearing from Vani. So let me start with where I hail from. We are all who we are and who we become, who we choose to be. Everything starts with where we have started our journeys, right? I was brought up in the southernmost part of India, situated in the coastal line called Kerala. We Keralites are always proud to say that we are one of the 10 paradises of the world, so named so by the National Geography. Kerala is famous, especially for our ecotourism initiatives and beautiful backwaters. Our national festival, Onam, is a 10-day celebration of flowers, and we are home to Sri Padmanabha Swami Temple, which allegedly houses more than $22 billion of treasure. So some amusing facts about my state. So I wanted to touch upon my home state, particularly because, especially considering all female fellows here, interestingly, Kerala was majorly a matriarchal society compared to the whole of India for a very long period until the colonization, and the system continues even in many sections of the society to date. So women's empowerment makes it the most literate state with 98% and highest health index. So maybe deep down, there is a strong woman inside me, right? Genes of my great, great, great square ancestors, I would say. Now, what do? I am an engineering academic and scientist and entrepreneur. I would like to term my job as I inspire youngsters such as yourself to engineer a better world. I'm currently spearheading the engineering education innovation to help develop futuristic and holistic engineers. So very quickly touching upon what is engineering. See, there's a major issue with engineering is being that wrong perception and notion of a man with a hard hat fixing things at home. So engineering and the creative thinking of engineers, people forget, makes humanity's biggest dreams possible, from consumer electronics to spaceships and life beyond Earth. So from entertainment, fashion to amusement, if you look closely, engineering is at the heart of everything, from the shoes you wear to the phone in your hand, through to the music you listen to, the games you play, the food you eat, through to your laptops or phones to which you are currently hearing me or seeing me. So engineering brings ideas to life and turns dreams into realities. So for me, it is very hard to overstate the importance of engineers. I would say from Archimedes and his hydraulics to Brunel and his railways, engineers make the modern day world possible. So very simply put, engineers make things, we make things work, and we make things work better for society. So engineering is a profoundly creative endeavor, right? We need engineers, especially female engineers, to solve almost all of the world's problems, from farming and energy to automation. There's a fascinating world of engineering life. Now, how did I end up in this marvelous, magical world of engineering? So to talk about that journey and the road to UK, I have to start from my school days, rewinding back to 20 years. I love science and I love social sciences too. So I was someone who was the topper in both social sciences and physical sciences. And I wasn't quite sure what to do with my interest in humanities, in understanding history and society. I think it was the influence growing up in an electrical manufacturing business household. My father owned a small scale electrical manufacturing unit. He made holders, right, where you put bulbs and so on. I think being surrounded by that, I always wanted to be an engineer. One couldn't be something else with that interest, right, in social sciences. So in traditional educational environments 20 years ago. So engineering came as a very obvious choice to me. Teaching appealed to me from a very strong age, came very natural to me. I remember whenever I came back from schools, I would have my teddy bears and dolls, and I would actually try and recreate classroom and try to teach in a way that I think would have been better for me as a student, right? So I always try to think about how best something can be taught, but I have never wanted to be or aspired to be a teacher then. So I started teaching very informally to my peers and then as formal tutorials because I loved it. Never wanted to pursue it as a career. I was always academically linked. I was a topper in the class, and like most people who did engineering, after which I wanted to do my MBA and all that, I started my career as a research and development engineer. I found I had no aptitude specifically in manufacturing then, and so decided not to pursue my master's in management and to get back to technical expertise in electronics. And so that is how I pursued my master's in power electronics and drives. I was into power semiconductors and devices even during my undergraduate days. So it was during my second year of my master's, during my project work, that I figured I had an aptitude for research. So I moved from Kerala to the neighboring state, Chennai, and I did my master's at SRM University, which obviously provided me with a better exposure and to IITs because we had professors coming in and so on. So I decided I wanted to continue my quest of knowledge and do my PhD. So I was hooked to this idea of research then. So after graduating as top of university for my MTech, I joined as a lecturer at National Institute of Technology, NIT, Kozhikode, while parallelly preparing for IIT PhD admissions. Now, finally, I got into IIT Delhi and I was invited by the professor to be there for 3 months to just get acquainted before I was joining formally. Now, it was during those 3 months that he and some of my colleagues in his team suggested to me that I should probably also apply abroad. And it was the first time that I realized my CV was worth something that did hold a chance to be offered a PhD abroad. But I was very much, I'm from a super conventional environment, and I was the first person in my family and immediate family, I would say, to pursue a master's. I obviously was privileged enough to be in a household where everyone was or had an undergraduate degree and so on. So the technical thing or the familial hierarchy and convention was that after your undergraduation, you get married, you get settled and so on. So me doing a master's was me breaking that bond. So for the first time, I was also the oldest in my immediate family as well. So I had all cousins below me. And see, the thing is, when you actually take certain decisions because you believe in the value of education, at that point, I did not think about, oh, I'm going to start or radicalize my family or anything. So what I essentially was doing was just following my passion. And I then, looking back, I can see that whether it is my brother, whether it is all my 5 cousins, everyone ended up doing a master's and following what they wanted to do, all working in different countries and so on. So I'm quite pleased looking back at even if it's a small change, the kind of change that we create with our bold decisions. Now, when I got into that position at IIT Delhi, I somehow got very motivated by the professors there. I resigned my job at NIT. I came back. I did not take up the IIT Delhi offer and started applying abroad. So that was a critical 2012, I would say, was a critical decision-making time, breaking down many conventional barriers. I had to face many challenges to just go and study in a college which was in a different state, right? My father always believed that you should be somewhere 15 kilometers from your home, and that is what, because girls should always get back home after a certain time. So I was not very sure how I was going to do this, but somehow I managed, and I got into PhD. I applied. I got into a PhD offers at Cambridge, Oxford, Manchester, and so on. And I unleashed, I would say, a new era for my family members and slowly the community, the town, and so on, unlocking the doors for those who followed me. So just zooming in on the exact higher education journey or the road to Cambridge in very quickly, I won't go into the details. I'm happy to do that during the questionnaire session. See, I had no knowledge of how to apply abroad in the right way. I never know any person. As for me, it was just Rajiv Gandhi or Nehru, that is always how I associated Cambridge with. So Google was my friend and guide in the whole process. That's a long story, especially when you are an international. I first researched on the top 20 universities, charted a list of universities which had my area of interest, Googled for reference, statement of purpose and research proposal formats, and just did it meticulously, though now when I see them, I can see it has a lot of drawbacks and limitations. And that is why I always feel like there is a need to talk about these things to people who I think would benefit from it. And applications close around October. So I applied. Cambridge and Oxford took 3 months to shortlist. I wasn't expecting back to hear from them. Meanwhile, I've already gotten into Manchester with dual scholarships. And it was during that time that I got an interview call from Cambridge. I'm super excited. And I told my mother that I'm just glad I made it to shortlisting, right? So I was like, I can't put that into words, but I attended the 1 hour long interview and answered all the questions. And so that gave me some hope that I probably stood some chance of getting into Cambridge. But by the time I also got into Oxford without an interview, so I decided to wait and see how the Cambridge process goes through. And, as you can see, it goes through your supervisor confirmation, department confirms, board of graduate confirms, then it goes to something called as college admissions, that's where you live and where you socialize and so on and so forth. So eventually in a year's time, and then I got the scholarship, and I was finally in August 2013, I would say that is again a turning point professionally, personally. It was achieving that independence to do what I thought was right and best for me. So with that sense of achievement and empowerment in September 2013, I landed in Cambridge, and it was like living a dream. I cannot put those emotions into words. I was traveling abroad for the first time. That itself was a great learning. From then on, it was an adventurous journey for 5 years with phenomenal ups and traumatic loss as well. That's life. PhD was an incredibly challenging and yet most rewarding time of my life, a time of great learnings. So I would say intellectual platform at Cambridge gave me the freedom to do independent research, establish collaborations, renew my business acumen, wherein I co-founded 2 educational tech startups. So Cambridge essentially opened up innovative avenues, wonderful opportunities, world-class exposure, and amazing networking arena with some of the best brains, innovators, and change makers in the world. And I am here joined by 2 such wonderful, incredibly passionate people in education, Dr. Darshana and Dr. Vijay. So you can see how those relationships and so on stays on. As a researcher, see, I was there to do my research, right? So I have to briefly touch upon what did I do. See, talking about it, the world, we all deal day in and day out with electrical power conversion. I'm sure Wani is better placed than me, making a lot of inroads in that area to talk a lot about it. But very quickly, see, we are surrounded by appliances, gadgets, and systems, and trillions of adjustments are made every single second to deliver electricity from our wall outlets to power any of our electrical or electronic device, right? Now, these are made possible by systems that do this converting, and they're called as power electronic converters. And conventionally, at the heart of it is something called as a silicon switch. So if you think about it, when your phone or laptop is working for some time, you can physically feel the heat, right? So that means technically, on an average, these converters are only 90% energy efficient, and the rest is lost as heat. So other than loss of energy, it also costs us billions every year as taxpayer money. So with this increasing power density and efficiency requirements, along with conventional pollution control trends of our times, silicon devices were failing to meet all these challenging demands. So the crux of my research was to identify the problem in my research area. I decided this is what I wanted to work on solving. So my research aimed to address this problem of electrical power efficiency by exploring a better way of converting electrical power using novel devices made of this material called gallium nitride, abbreviated GaN. So essentially, they are expected to jumpstart the next generation of, let's say, smaller, faster, denser, cheaper, and hence efficient power converters. So my work looked into bridging the gap between the laboratory phase and commercialization of GaN using machine learning. So it's not just important that, see, I'm an engineer, right? And there are a lot of research into the physics of things. And as an engineer, you think, how can I use that knowledge of science to engineer something that is of value to society. And that was what I was doing. Now, what's the story behind the scenes? Yes, technically, that was what I was up to. See, during this time, I was battling many issues. I have already hinted to the fact that I came from a very conventional background. For 20 plus years of my life, I was a girl who was never allowed to travel alone. I've never, been outside of my home with my friends. I was not allowed to have coffee, tea with friends. I didn't own a phone for the first 24 or 25 years of my life, and so on. So and this is the person who is, coming abroad and so on. So I never felt so hopeless and helpless as much as I felt at Cambridge, because I think it was a big change for me on many levels. But giving up is generally not on my agenda of things. So I would say I started all right in my research group. I decided to pursue my work in this gallium nitride power electronics. I initiated collaborations with companies, all of which I did enthusiastically and independently. But unfortunately, my supervisor left in my second year, and that brought about a lot of administrative and technical issues. So I have struggled, sacrificed, and I would say survived a not so easy journey to Cambridge, and I was not ready to give it up due to external circumstances beyond my control. So I decided to stay back. And that essentially changed the course of my PhD and my life as well. Now, there's a lot of issues, right? Financial, emotional, and so on, playing out while you are trying to survive in a different world, different weather, different culture, and particularly with someone with somewhat less exposure. So my route, I would say, to independent living and learning started in my late 20s. So right from my school days, I was very active in extracurricular activities. I had a good aptitude for meta skills. I was a school leader, college secretary, and so on. But while I reached at Cambridge, I felt like I should just concentrate, being one of the few female engineers and non-IATN and so on and so forth. I decided to stay away from all activities. In the first 1.5 years, I was just completely aloof to what was going around Cambridge. And it was when my supervisor left that I was so depressed, not clinically, but technically, right? So I was feeling very low in my life, that I decided to boost my own motivation. I started getting involved in societies. So Cambridge has 700 plus societies. So I was involved in IEEE, Beyond Profit Cambridge, Power Electronics UK, and so on. And it was during this time that I stumbled on a friend very accidentally in the Beyond Profit Society, who invited me to participate in a Hull Prize competition. So we had to come up with this social startup idea. And that is how Fawali was born. And Fawali was aimed at helping marginalized kids connect to the digital revolution. And it was much before COVID, right? So we had this vision that education is going to go all hybrid, and it is very important to be able to have digital literacy for people who are marginalized, especially in slums and so on. But in that technical process, I realized I loved being in a team, sharing the same vision and people having complementary skill sets. And this later motivated me to co-found another startup with my brother called Woody, which is an artificial intelligence-based skill and talent discovery platform. So leave alone the technical details. You can see that, I was someone who thought I did not have interest in management when I first started off my career after my engineering. And you can see how my own interest is evolving, right, with time. And it is also us understanding the different aspects of different types of careers, I would say. So summing up my technical research, I would say timeline-wise, this is how it looks like, not aiming to complicate, but finally making through the famous, or rather infamous, red door of Cambridge. In the course of 4.5 years, I would say all these scholarships and all the work that I've done, the MNCs and universities I've collaborated and worked with, this essentially helped me in understanding how much of an entrepreneurial mindset I had, because I was doing a self-supervised or self-directed PhD. I'd say what I'm most proud of is a Viva day where I've defended this PhD, right? Answering all the questions and so on and so forth. Now, See, I was running into my 4th year in between all these problems without any scholarship. So to sustain in my year, and it is this a chance meeting with your wonderful, amazing co-founder, Darshana, and her suggestion that I ran for the Graduate Union Vice President post. And yeah, we ran a campaign for accountable and responsible PhD supervisions, and we got the university to review the code of practice and guidelines. So I think having had that opportunity to share that platform with another amazing Indian woman in STEM, a physicist, and walking from a small town, and both of us incredibly sharing those journeys is something I'm very pleased about. And I think I was able to change a catastrophe, what could have been a catastrophe in my life, to something very productive and useful for other students. And it helped me give more meaning to my Cambridge experience. Now, it was also during this time that I discovered the utmost importance and significance of policies in changing societies, work in and beyond the boundaries of your learning and lab. So this is where my interest in social sciences comes, not just in my social tech startups, but also in policies, wherein I think this all goes back to tying to my interest in my school days. And as you can see, my intersectional interest in engineering, education, policy, outreach, and all that coming full circle. So this is exactly the reason why I think we should all develop skills that we have an aptitude for, and as you move along your student life. So there's nothing outstanding that will happen by just cramming knowledge, right? So I would say, in short, Cambridge offered me many opportunities which came with its baggage of challenges, but which always opened door to other possibilities. So I was doing, tutoring for Cambridge, interviewing, and being the chairperson, and so on and so forth. But in the course of the time, I was able to establish a network with prominent researchers, academics, policymakers, to establish a space in that UK landscape. Now, since my research was not a smooth journey, and I wanted to make sure if I wanted to be a scientist. See, we all have different people and we all have different priorities. So I'm someone who always wants to know if something would be right for me. And so that's why I applied for fellowships. And that's how I got the Schlumberger Faculty for Future Fellowships. And again, Darshana had played a very important role in advising me and so on and so forth as being a fellow of it already. So it was during my time at Oxford that I figured I didn't want to be a full-time researcher, nor a full-time academic. So it was during that time that I could clearly see that I'm what they call a third space professional, right? Who had this intersectional and interdisciplinary interest. And I decided I wanted to bring together all my skills and interests to forge a career that works best for me and not follow any traditional academic path. So with many years of, by then I almost had a decade and more of that intersectional experience in engineering, education, entrepreneurship, research, and so on. And having had parallel careers, both in academia and industry, with a strong flair for active engineering education, and as a champion and advocate for engineering, Dyson Institute mission of developing engineering leaders fascinated me during my time at Oxford. I applied and so on, I got in. I thought I had my life figured out. I decided to take up the offer, and in mid-April, I came home because my fellowship was getting over in March, and that is when, in February, sorry, not April. So that is when COVID struck, right? Yeah, in early March, and the whole world went into lockdown. So having finally achieved that sense of freedom, empowerment, and all that, I went home for 2 weeks to India to visit my family, and boom, COVID struck. My plans didn't work out, like millions around the globe. So uncertainty, I would say, ruled my life. But yeah, eventually in 6 months' time, I joined. And at Dyson Institute, what I'm trying to do is to currently design and develop engineering education based on how engineers think, because I think I should be able to use my intersectional background to interconnect and inculcate innovation, enterprise, and research into my engineering learning, design, teaching, and other related activities. Now, in short, I would say engineering offered me many opportunities, which came with its baggage of challenges. And as a student, fascinated by physics and maths, and with an interest in social sciences, but I was drawn into engineering. As an engineer interested in specializing, I got into power electronics, during which time frame my aptitude in research and teaching motivated me to pursue a PhD. Now, it was the systemic barriers during my PhD that gave me the freedom to use my meta skills to discover my interest in entrepreneurship, education, STEM outreach, mentoring, and so on. And alongside all this, it's my personal journey that motivated me to start public engagement. So how can I integrate all this together? My education experience and expertise, my passion for engineering and technology, my empathy and drive into a purpose is what's on my agenda now. And I can find that my personal and professional journeys are intertwined, and my experience and environment has helped coach my value system, the person, the engineering educator I am today, and the ethos of all that drives it. So as I alluded to, it is my personal journey as a woman, as a female, underrepresented minority in STEM, in engineering, that motivated me to start mentorship, outreach, public engagement as part of paying forward to the next generation. So as an invited global ambassador for QE Prize and so on and so forth, all my leadership roles in multiple organizations and initiatives, all this, as you can see, came about very organically. I did not target, right, for it. So all I personally wanted, and professionally as well, was to have my freedom of choice, my voice and space in this world, irrespective of my race, gender, ethnicity, and neurodiversity. So what I didn't have is what I'm trying to give to the younger generation, sharing my journey, letting you know life can be built in many different ways, helping you see the world through my lens, because each one of you will look at my journey through your eyes, and hopefully you'll be able to grasp some things, even very little, that might work best for you. So never to give up has been the running theme of my life, but it comes with its caveats, right? There are always terms and conditions attached. I have always consistently tried to work to be the best version of myself. So in hindsight, I would say I can clearly see that I think with my heart and not always with my brain. So that comes with issues. So as I move forward in life, I acknowledge that there is no such thing as a perfect job, perfect degree, perfect partner. So as an electronics engineer, developing a career circuit in the landscape of technology and teaching, I accept that there are trade-offs to me, right? Depends on each person, on what are your priorities, your passions, the risks that you are willing to undertake in your life to achieve your dreams. And how do you define your balance of fulfillment and happiness? See, that is unique to each one of us. That is shaped by our background, personal and professional, values, interests, our character. What are we willing to do to live our dreams? What motivates us to get up every day? And what satisfies us to have a comfortable sleep at night is unique to each one. So I've personally experienced that everyone is unique. We need to accept and acknowledge that the world is not designed to suit everyone. We need to navigate it. Sometimes we need to accept things we cannot change, try to change the things we can. Experience and experiments will allow you to have to gain the wisdom to know what to let be and what to change. I've consciously tried not to allow my identity as a woman to stop me from pursuing my goals. So having said that, we all go through our own struggles and successes. That's an end product of our choices and our decisions. So the need to comply is natural, right? I've also felt the need to comply to certain things. So there needs to be a constant and consistent effort, especially as a female, to tell ourselves not to fit into the definition and image that society places on us. So I'm here today because I believed in my dreams, believed in my story, and believed in the millions of possibilities that life can offer, irrespective of all the stereotyping. So in conclusion, I would say, chart your own journey. Everyone else is taken. So each one of us is a culmination of our environment, our education, our experience. I repeat many times. So try to understand yourself better every single day of your life. What do you want from life is a continuous question that you should be asking. You'll have different answers at different time frames of your life, and that is totally fine. It will give you the voice and space to own up to who you are, own up to your own actions and aspirations, charting a career that will fit with you and your world. So, whatever be the social, political, organizational, religious, cultural, and economic challenges, we need to constantly learn from our failures. We need to have that attitude to never give up, but to know when to give up as well. So we need to be able to find that sense of physical and mental well-being and balance. So as empowered women, we need to empower each other, and to men in the virtual room as our allies, I would say we are better together. We owe it to our future generation to build a stronger, safer, and level playing field for all. So it is the time for equality and equity. Finally, in the world of artificial intelligence, in the world where we are always racing, in the world where women's rights are being pushed deliberately backwards, I think it is important to be more human than ever, appreciate and acknowledge that it's not technology and engineering that innovates, it's people. I would like to remember all the beautiful people with whom I forged this journey with. Impossible to name everyone, but people across all these organizations and initiatives have helped me be who I am. So let us remember that we stand on the shoulders of impressive contribution to women's education and empowerment by incredible women from those who walked before us, and we owe it to our future generation to make the path bigger, better, and sustainable for our youngsters. Vigyan Shala and initiatives like Kalpana is a great promising step in this direction. I'm very proud of Darshana, Vijay, and team for the tremendous efforts in this direction. So thank you very much for your patient listening, for being a wonderful audience. Good luck engineering your careers. And Shala, family, it's been lovely to be with you all. Once again, I thank Anushla, Darshana, and team for having me, and over to the wonderful Vani to take over. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Nikita, for sharing your journey and the insights that you got from your experience. We will take questions for you after Vani shares her story.
Perfect. Thanks, Anushla. Thanks, Nikita. And thanks, Nikita, for laying such a great start to the whole program. It's going to be much easier for me to put my journey forward. So I've kept it more of a story format. I don't have a presentation as such, but I just wanted to put my life and how I entered STEM into a story for the fellow Kalpanas. Kalpana fellows present here. So good evening, everyone. I'm Vani, and I've grown up in Mumbai. Engineering came very naturally to me, like maths. I think most Indians do. We are brought up in a way to have an aptitude for maths. Both my parents are engineers, but my mom gave up her career to bring up me and my sibling brother. So this was always there at the back of my mind that, I'm studying right now, but what would happen in the future? Will I be able to take up my career or not? And what are the efforts which I'm putting in going towards? So yes, so I did 12th with maths and science. Post that got into engineering. I did my engineering from Manipal Institute of Technology. I was doing instrumentation and control. So good 4 years, learned a lot of things. First time away from home. So had the liberty to try some freedom, which maybe I wouldn't have got at home. Anyways, those 4 years went by quite quickly. College life was fun. And then came placements. I was lucky enough to be placed in a core field job and not just the software jobs which were available on campus. So I was placed at Reliance Industries, and I was waiting for my posting because Reliance Industries usually means Mumbai, and I thought, okay, that's going to be a very happy, cushiony job to do. And I got my posting letter 2 weeks before joining, and I had not even heard of the place. I was posted at Nagothane. This is in the interiors of Maharashtra, roughly 2 hours away from Mumbai. And it was a full-fledged petrochemical plant where I was posted as a maintenance engineer for instrumentation and control. Very, very male-dominated setup. I was in the township, and still fresh out of college, had opportunity, and I thought, okay, this is something I want to do. I got a lot of advice that, why do you want to go outside your comfort zone? Why do you want to not do a job in a software field? But I thought I've done this, studied this for 4 years, and why not? I mean, I want to take up this challenge. So I went against all odds. Even my family warned me well enough, and I took the plunge. Over there, so it was a full-fledged petrochemical plant. I was posted at EOEG, which is ethylene oxide, ethylene glycol plant. And in my plant, I would say there were maybe 2 females. So time and again, and imagine young girls, right? You have these experienced 30, 40-year-old, 40 years of experience, rich experience in engineering men. And amongst them is this girl fresh out of college, trying to put her engineering to place. And yes, so time and again, I was reminded that, oh, be careful, you're going to climb the monkey ladder, don't fall down, or, being given that extra care just because I was a girl. And that is not something which I really liked, because I did not want to be underestimated just because I was a female, right? And why would I not have the potential which the peers had? I mean, it was just lack of experience, right? According to me. So my training got over, and I was made in charge of the technicians at the plant. So anyways, I was being given this undue importance, and now imagine 20 men who have been working in this plant for the past 15 to 20 years are asked to report to a girl who just joined 2 months back. They could just not digest it. I had all the hiccups which you could possibly imagine. They would tell me that, अरे आपको नहीं पता है, ये कैसे होता है, हम हर साल करते हैं. There were some calibrations which had to be done at the top of the towers, and they would just not go there. They would say, oh, it's been working fine for so many years, and I would not do that. I would go and take that up, that, this guy is not going here, and then they would corner me and tell me, you think you know more. But anyways, I think one thing I learned over there was that by showing respect to the person for their age and for their experience, you can always put your point across very politely and in a straightforward manner. You will be by being firm, right? And slowly and steadily, I think I won their confidence. But it was a challenge. And I'm very happy that I was able to do that. Before I left Reliance, I was actually acknowledged for this. We had a major shutdown. So the girls who are probably pursuing chemical engineering or the likes, when a plant shuts down, it's extremely heavy pressure because the plant is not making revenue. And all the maintenance jobs which are to be done, they're all consolidated in a very short time span. Extremely high pressure. You work 24 hours a day during those times. So I was made a lead for one of the plant shutdowns. And I don't think that would have been possible without my perseverance. There were times when there were no other girls in the room. There would be conference rooms, girl, and that's even pointed out. But I think instead of that being a challenge, you should look at it as a privilege. You should be proud of that, right? And that's what I would want the other Kalpana fellows to know, that if you're a girl making it up there, that's something to be extremely proud of, rather than it being pointed out that, oh, there's only one girl here, right? At least one made it there, and then tomorrow there'll be 10 making it up there, right? So that was my journey at Reliance. It came to an end after 2 years because I decided to pursue masters. I think when I was doing a hardcore engineering job, I realized that somewhere I had a business calling, and I wanted to understand the business part of it, or the revenue part of what goes together to finally generate revenue, money for the company. I did not want to do a hardcore MBA because I felt that I have been doing 4 years. I studied 4 years of engineering, and then 2 years I've worked in the technical space. So I don't want to wash it all down by doing an MBA and doing a hardcore management job. So I started to research about certain courses at that point in time. And very interestingly, I came upon a course which was called Engineering Management. And like it says, it was a STEM course because it was mostly engineering, but with limited management. So it would help you, kind of manage engineering jobs better or engineering companies better. So it taught me a lot about project management, product management, and more from an engineering perspective. So I applied to this course in a couple of universities in the US, and I got an admit from Cornell. I was fortunate enough to make it there. It was a 1-year course, but extremely intensive because the other master's programs are 2 years with 30 credits, and this was 9 months with 30 credits squeezed into it. But nevertheless, I think the exposure was unparalleled. Going there for the first time alone to a new country, establishing yourself there, making that your home for the next year or so, making friends, colleagues, peers, and internationally, all countries were represented over there, right? So learning from their perspective was very, very, I think the exposure was something which cannot be compared to. It changed me as a person altogether. Just very small things and their perspective made me think, oh, I never thought like this. So I think one very life transforming event of my life would definitely be attributed there. So I did this course for a year. I did have some opportunities in the US, but I had a homecoming call and wanted to be close to India. So I decided to come back to India, where I had connected with Alam from Cornell, and there was a startup which they were starting. I decided to join that. So this was by the name of Cube 26 sometime in 2013. So it was all going well. We received great funding. I was doing the business part because I had just come out with a master's degree and said, okay, now I know how to apply engineering, tech, and business together. So, let me take this up. That's when I also realized that I had an entrepreneurial streak in myself and I wanted to make a mark somewhere. So everything was going well. This was a software startup. But then again, there was a funding issue, demonetization happened, and we got acquired by Paytm. So at this point in time, I was probably 28 and married now. And I also knew somewhere in the back of my head that the next job or assignment which I wanted to take up, I wanted to impact lives in a very positive way, right? And I also knew that I probably had one more chance of making it in the entrepreneurial space because you're towards 30 and you probably have 10 years of your career if you make it big, right? So those are the thoughts running in my head when my colleague Saurav, who is the founder and CEO of Euler, bounced this upon me, and he thought that I would tell him that this is a crazy idea. But he planned to make electric vehicles in India. And I just thought this was a brilliant idea. I mean, if you are in and around Delhi, you would know about the pollution and the health hazards which it possesses. And specifically around Diwali, there's just everyone's eyes are red and people are sneezing, and it's all because of the pollution over there. So I was kind of up for this. I thought it's extremely exciting. And if it's this one chance in my life, which I have to kind of impact the environment, leave a better world for the generation to come, I should go for it. But as life had it, when just as Euler started out, I came to know I was expecting. So that's a part of a woman's journey, right? While your career is extremely important to you, and you feel that, okay, I've studied this far and, I want to make it big, you also have responsibilities which you have to fulfill. And having a kid at that time was probably the best part, the best decision. I was extremely, extremely scared about how this would impact my career. Being very honest, I had no idea whether I'll be able to continue my career or not. Euler was just a couple of months old, so I had no idea whether I would be retained at Euler or not. There was no funding available at that time. We were just 4 odd people. So I thought, why would they want to continue with me when they know that, I might not be able to give my best? However, I was lucky enough to have the support of my family as well as my colleagues. I mean, my husband, my parents, my in-laws, they all supported me, encouraged me. And that's how I guess I reached where I am today. My colleagues at work, they've covered up for me when my health wasn't the best, when I had to take care of my daughter. They still do. And I think that's the best part of it, that instead of looking upon that, oh, she's a woman, she won't be able to do it, they do come forward and pitch. So I think the whole mindset, that a woman being in automotive or a woman being in engineering is changing steadily. And I'm very happy to see this progress just through my career of 12 years, right? And I think the next 12 years would be transforming. These questions wouldn't come into people's mind at all. And that's the kind of stage which I would want to leave for the next set of engineers joining the industry. So Euler happened. I was blessed with a daughter. And it's been a whirlwind of a journey with of course, electric vehicles and the excitement. And then, of course, the excitement of my daughter being there. While fulfilling my professional duties, I think I missed out on major milestones. I did not see her walk for the first time. I did not probably, was not there all the time. But the satisfaction that I am putting my education to use, I'm making a mark there, right? Automotive is again a very male-dominated industry. There are many times I'm the only woman on a panel, I'm the only woman in a conference room, but just the fact that I'm there makes me very proud of it. And that is what I would want the Kalpana Fellows to go back with today, thinking that, okay, don't underestimate yourself, or don't let the others in the room underestimate yourself just because of the woman tag. Prove it to them that, we are far superior because we can handle both home, personal, and professional obligations very well. So this would be my message today, that, I think the sky is the limit, and it is we ourselves who decide what is the limit we want to reach. If you keep pushing yourself, there would be failures. I'm not saying my journey has been rosy throughout. I have failed as well. But one day we will get there. So that's what I would want to conclude with today. And thank you, Dr. Darshana, Dr. Vijay, Anushila, for giving me this opportunity. Thanks, Nikita, for laying out such a wonderful speech before mine. And I definitely resonated a lot with what you were putting out there. So I just wanted to share a bit about my journey as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Vani, for the wonderful talk and sharing your journey and how you overcame and convinced people that they should value your opinion too and your education. So thank you for sharing your journey. I will actually open the stage for questions and ask our fellows to unmute yourself, turn on your camera and ask questions. Go ahead, anyone? Otherwise, I'm going to call names.
Good evening, ma'am.
Hi, can you, before you ask the question, can you say your name because I can't see you?
Yeah, ma'am. I am Swati. I am currently doing my MS. It's a great pleasure for me to hear your such a wonderful career journey. So, ma'am, my question is how I can take admission in Cambridge University or any other university in foreign for my PhD.
Nikita,
Hi,
I
Swati.
think.
Probably that's a question for me. Very quickly, I would say, so you said, so, your voice was breaking. So if I heard it right, did she say MS?
PhD, I think. MSc and PhD.
So she's currently doing her MSc, yes, Swati?
Yes, ma'am.
So can I ask which subject?
Biotech.
Biotech? Yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
your voice is breaking. Yes, so very quickly, I would say your area is biotech, but you should be able to very generically think about what is it that you want to work on, not specifically, but that's why I stress on the word very generically. So you said you wanted to try Cambridge, but I would say shortlist at least 10 to 15 universities, then think about what is your, or what are the different departments in which biotech research is going on, because it's not just biology, right? It's engineering, it's a lot of other things, and these universities are so big. So try to do your research, a good shortlisting of the different departments in which you would be interested in, then shortlist the faculty that you would are interested to work on, depending upon the area that you're finalized on, and then look at the scholarships as well parallelly, because if you're applying for universities, know that some of the top-notch universities will have a funding application. So always look at how best you can apply and strategize your application process. So before you start applying, know that it is a very long process. It's not like Indian applications. You'll have statement of purposes. You'll have to write essays. So my biggest suggestion, I would never, want to give an advice, but I would say my very humble opinion and suggestion would be, you should be able to think about, why do you want to do research, right? Because it's a very painstakingly lonely journey. As much as rewarding it would be, it is a very long and lonely journey at the end of the day. So think about, why is it that you want to do research? How is it that your identity, Swati, as a person, how does that fit into what you want to do, and how does what is it that you want to do with what you are going to do in the PhD, and so on and so forth. Even if you don't have a clear-cut idea, it should be something that you should have some kind of clarity on, so that you will be able to tell your story in your essay very convincingly, so that you will, cross that first barrier of getting shortlisted. And then for interviews, mostly they would look into your aptitude and so on. So I think that is the kind of process that will go on, especially if you're applying for the top 10 universities. Know that you'll have to at least have 1 year to go through that process. And please be mindful of these scholarships, right? So it's an incredibly expensive journey as well. So please ensure that you apply for scholarships and look at the eligibility criteria and so on and so forth, because different departments, different universities, everyone will have their own ways in which they can fund you. So understand that applying for PhD is a mini research in itself. So be prepared for that journey. And also, as you're already doing here, you're attending talks, make sure you talk to people, make sure that you converse and make an informed decision of why and where you want to do a PhD, but more specifically, once you have gone through all that process and you decide which supervisor to apply for, do a good research on the supervisor. This PhD is at the end of the day a marriage with your supervisor, right? It's not just the technical research journey. You have, see, what people forget is that there's a lot of complementary things that go on and supplementary things and skills that you develop during your PhD. So it's very important that you do those mini research about the university, the department, the supervisor, the funding. Thank you. Hope that helps.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Nikita. I just wanted to add one more thing from here. I think this is for the benefit of fellows as well. We are running master classes on all these issues. Last week, we had a master class on how to apply for masters and PhDs abroad, and we will be covering how to prepare your CVs, SOPs, and cover letters in the following days. So to all the girls out there, if you have a question regarding applying, please hold that, because those are being answered in your master classes separately. I would say, please keep your questions focused to how exciting their field of research is and how they navigated various challenges, like both personal and professional. I think that could be a very good use of time, because we don't get to ask such questions, right? Everybody tells us that these journeys are going to be difficult, but how difficult? What would it entail? So any fear that you may have, this is your safe space and you can ask those questions. All right. So Anushila, over to you.
I have a question. Hello.
Manisha, right? Or Sheetal.
Am I audible?
Sheetal.
Yeah,
Yes,
Sheetal. Yeah, I have a question for Vani. It was a great session though. Thank you for such inspiring stories to both of the speakers we are having today. I have a question that she said that when she was 28, she got a pressure on marriage. Now I am also getting a pressure. So how to handle it and get the mind out of it?
See, I think you'll have to, I don't know, what are you studying right now? Where exactly in your career are you?
I'm pursuing MSc right now.
You're pursuing MSc. So I think you should tell your parents and your family that, to let you complete your education. And at the same time, I think we all have to be mindful that sooner or later you will have to get married, right? But I think it's very important.
One more thing is, like, I'm really confused on my PhD topics. Like, it's basically on ecology or genetics. Like, many people are demotivating me that genetics is a tough subject. You will not get through it. It would take years and years.
That's definitely not true. It is very like genetics is a vast field, so you can't say genetics is a tough. Also depends on like who is giving you this advice, right? Do they have any experience in genetics?
I am having a researcher with me, like in our department. She's doing research, and she's telling me that don't do research on genetics, or you will end up getting your ears into it.
But I'll let Vani complete first, and then we'll take it up.
I think Nikita can add to me because she's done a PhD with research. I have not formally done that. But Sheetal, what I would want to say is that whatever topic you pick up, whether ecology or genetics, it should be something you're passionate about, something which has a calling from your side, because the journey is not going to be easy. And in the rainy days, you should still have that calling. You should not feel that, oh my God, where have I got stuck, right? And only if you really do have that passion, will you be able to navigate the days which are not in your favor. So that's one thing I would really, so even if people are telling you not to take genetics, but you think that this is something which really interests me and I want to make a career in that, you should. Don't let people come and tell you what to do. I think you should tell them what to do, what you would want to do. So that's from my side, and probably Nikita can add because she's formally done this. So, yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate what Vani, that's the best advice that you can give, and I'm of the same opinion. People are always interested in giving unsolicited advice and mostly to demotivate others. And maybe, very truly your friend might believe what she's telling you or your colleague. I'm not saying that people are always saying the wrong things, but it always goes back to just because it doesn't work for her doesn't mean it won't work for you, right? So you can never, that's why I say make informed decisions. So be mindful of what she has told you. And when you are deciding what area you want to focus on, have all those points, right, across and talk to many people. Look at how many people in genetics and so on and so forth. So again, it always goes back to data and the number of people you talk to and so on and so forth, and never ever allow someone else to tell you what to do and what not to do. Talk to people, take all those data inside and process it, and like make an engineered decision, I would say, and navigate that.
Thank you so much.
Hope that's helpful.
Thank you. Yeah, I would agree with both of you. And also, I think, like Nikita said, right, people are always demotivating. And maybe Sheetal, that person you talk to, she's not happy, he or she is not happy at the lab. So one thing to notice, maybe you don't want to join that lab if you do PhD in genetics, right? So that's something you can keep in mind, right? So yeah. Next is Manisha has raised her hand. Manisha?
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So my question is specifically Nikita Hari and can answer, I think you all of you. So why people are so attracted to abroad universities? Like, what are the major difference between how the professors think differently, or what are the difference between students thinking, or what is the main focus of those universities, and can't we do the same thing in Indian universities? Or I
Hi, Manisha. Yeah, thank you for your question. I would say technically we could possibly do the same research. For example, let me say about my own stuff in India. But how did I end up doing that, right? Because obviously, why do we target? And why did IIT Delhi professor actually advise me? Because let's be honest, fundamentally, research-wise or innovation-wise, we are still a developing country. Yes, we are incredibly intelligent community and so on and so forth, but we are limited by our resources, by the fact that we are a country of 1 billion people and so on and so forth. So our universities, being traditional teaching universities, have our own limitations, and we are still evolving and developing as research universities. So it is to get that edge, to be on at the forefront of research, to learn from the best researchers who are in the landscape of that kind of happening research that people like us would want to do from abroad, right? So because you know exactly what is happening at the forefront of technology and so on and so forth. So, and obviously it is a platform, it is a research culture, but obviously what we need to remember is that human beings are same across the globe. So you will come across different issues that are very specific to academia and research and so on and so forth. It's not that you will be oblivious and you will have this magical world without problems. No, it's just that you would want to, whenever we want to do something, we want to do it at the best place that we can, right? Possibly can. So that is a reason why, if we have that privilege to be able to do that, and if we can make our way to such universities, people try and do it abroad.
Okay, thanks.
I hope that helps.
Yeah.
Sorry, thank you, both of you. I will say Nikita Singh has raised her hand next. Nikita.
Ma'am, am I audible?
Yes, Nikita, please go ahead.
First of all, ma'am, thanks a lot for sharing your beautiful journey. It's really inspiring. Nikita ma'am, I'm Vani ma'am. Ma'am, my question is from Nikita ma'am. Ma'am, how do you know that what is really meant for you? Means there are traditional things to do. And how can you be so sure about yourself that you will break these barriers, these conditional thing that after and you have done very great things. You have broken lots of things, lots of routine path, I wanted to say. So ma'am, how to understand it and how to do this?
Hi, Nikita. Yeah, it's always lovely to have someone with the same name in this room. It doesn't happen quite so often. Thank you very much. And that's a really good question. And it neatly connects with some of the other questions that I've come across. You never know, Nikita. So, when I was growing up, I would always say I wanted to be an engineer. And then, like I said, I didn't know what to do with my interest in humanities or society and all that. And as you can see, it is naturally I discovered my certain interest and skill set. And, I've kind of brought that together. So how did I do that is that, like, each person is unique, right? So I'm actually a neurodiverse person. So how I don't work serially, I will work parallelly. As in, if some things in my PhD goes wrong, I didn't try and fix it immediately. I tried to think about my mental health. What can I do to take a step back? And I'm someone who never wants to sit ideally. So I thought I should get involved in other activities. And you can see that led to one startup, that led to another startup. And then I realized, other than being, involved in these startups actively, I wanted to actually be able to use those enterprise knowledge back in engineering education and so on and so forth. So you can see that every person has their own way of doing it. Nikita Hari never had a clarity exactly of what she wanted to be doing at a specific juncture of my life. But what I always had a clarity is that I will only do something if I am passionate about it, if I am, happy about it. And that's why I'm saying the only question I'll ask myself is, am I, when you get up in the morning, can you slide out of your bed quickly to be able to seize the day, right? And there are times in my life where I didn't want to get out of my bed at all. And that's when I realized I don't want to do this on a day-to-day basis. So that's how I realized I don't want to be a full-time researcher. That's when I realized I don't want to do hardcore research. I wanted to do more engineering-specific research. And I didn't want to be a full-time teacher, whereas I always wanted to only do part-time teaching and so on. So very simply, you never know. And you always need to continually ask yourself, what is it that helps you have a peaceful day, right? And so on. So you need to be able to define success and happiness and balance for yourself. So that is how I would, in my opinion, advise or suggest people to decide what is it that you want to do.
Thanks, Nikita. Vani, would you also like to comment on this question, because this is more of a general question? So I would also like to hear your view on this.
Definitely, thanks. I think the only point which I would want to reiterate is that you decide for yourself, right? What is it that you want to do, which then helps you navigate the journey, right? And it happens stepwise. It's not that it'll all come together. So like at least my journey has been spanned over 12 to 13 years, right? It's not that it started with engineering, then a bit of business, and then sales, and then, so it's not that I started with sales on day one. So and also as your interests, as you navigate, as you mature into your career, your interests also tend to change basis a time and a particular age at which you are. But again, I think Nikita said it beautifully, and I would want to reiterate, you decide for yourself. Do not come into peer pressure and decide, okay, this looks cool and I want to do it. That's the biggest mistake which you can do when you are young, because that's not something which is going to keep you happy for a long time. And you are who you are as an individual. So make those choices very cautiously, not being influenced, but as your choice and your individual choice. So that's just something I would want to reiterate.
Thank you, Vani. There's one question in the chat. I think I'll ask both of you to reflect on it. So how did you deal with rejections whenever you faced it? So maybe Vani can go first, and then we can go to Nikita.
Sure. So, of course, rejection doesn't feel good. I mean, there are failures on the way. But I think don't get demotivated by it. While it's easy to say it, those days are difficult. But what is most important is to learn from it quickly and then get back to what you're doing, right? That is the most important part. The more hung up you are over a particular rejection, the more time you would waste of yours, as well as the productiveness you could get out of it, right? So it's okay. It's part of the journey. Take your learnings, and failures happen. That's bound to happen. But what is important is, what did you learn from that failure? And what you should personally ensure is not to repeat the same mistake again. So that's how I would want to put it. It's okay to fail, but what did you learn from it is what is more important, and not to repeat the same mistakes, so that at least you move forward in your journey. So. That's from my side.
Thanks, Vani. Nikita?
Yeah, just touching up on what he said and reiterating and adding the fact that you have to first own up, right? And to accept and acknowledge that a failure has happened and it is okay to fail and it's all part of your journey, and obviously learn from the failures and think about the next steps and so on and so forth. And also think about, so we are all so hung up with this success culture these days, right? So, and success, like I said, is different for different people. So make sure you define your own success, and that definition will change as you evolve and grow and age. But yeah, make sure that, like, how did that failure and the need to cope up with that failure affect your personal and your mental well-being and so on and so forth is also something to consider when you decide on your next steps, because that will affect the course of your journey.
Thank you, both of you. It is 7:30, and since a lot of girls still has questions, is it okay if I extend the session for 10 more minutes? Would you both be okay with that? Yes?
Definitely.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Tanuja, please unmute yourself and ask the question.
First of all, thank you so much for the session. I have a question for Vani ma'am actually. You said that you did face challenges in the start of your career and were getting underestimated constantly just because you are a woman. But do you still face them, or do people still underestimate you because you are a woman, or it changes with how successful you are? Like if you are at peak of your career, do things change?
Right, Tanuja, I think that's a very good question. So,
Vani, can I add one more question, one more line to this, if you don't mind?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so it is in line with this. I think Nikita can also reflect on this later. Like, how did you cope up with this resistance? Because it can be really demotivating, right? And how it has changed. I mean, as Tanuja has already asked the question. So I just wanted to add, like, how did you cope up with this extreme resistance that came in your path because you are a woman in minority in that particular field?
Sure, I'll add. So see, there are 2-3 things. One, of course, I think as a country, as a society, we have progressed. This, what I'm telling you about, is an experience which is at least 10 to 12 years in the past. So I see this happening much lesser with girls who are joining engineering fields now. So while I told this to you, don't be demotivated by it, but it could still happen, right? Because we still tend to come from a society which is seeing, like Nikita also mentioned during her presentation, an engineer as a man with a hat fixing something, right? So that's the picture you have. But definitely, Tanuja, I think it is your work which speaks for itself, right? Once you might be questioned once or twice, but when people think that, so they try to intimidate you, and that's just general culture of an organization or of a society. But once you've proven it once, twice, thrice, then people stop, they get their message, right? So be firm, be polite, respect people for their age and experience, but do not give up. That would be my advice to you. Be perseverant. That is extremely important. And just to add to what Darshana said, definitely it's intimidating. You get demotivated. But I think one support which I had was of my managers, who helped kind of coach me on how not to get worked up in such a situation and deal with it. And I think the learnings which I'm passing on today about being patient and perseverant are all what I was advised at that point in time and what worked for me. So I think it's also very important about how your peers or how your manager coaches you in such difficult situations where, the team dynamics have to be managed. So I was fortunate to have a good manager who could help me cope with that and gave me a learning for my life. So that I now apply that in my personal, professional, all spheres, right? That if I have to put a point across which is not going well, okay, let's not give up.
to ask, that Nikita ma'am, actually, you said something about that your family wasn't really happy with idea of you studying abroad or something. How did your family dealt with it, and how did you convince them actually to study abroad?
Tanuja, that is a really good question, and yeah, like I think because I was 26 by then, and I have realized how much like complying to some of the things that my family wanted. For example, right, I was a topper and all that, but I still studied in a very normal engineering college where the lowest ranked people would actually study, right? And so on, and how it has affected my mental health and motivation and all that. And I think that was a big learning curve for me 4 years down the line to look at how has that affected my day-to-day activities, and what are the, how did that affect my motivation, and so on and so forth, and to decide that, okay, I'm not going to allow someone else to define how my life should be. But it was very difficult. It's even difficult sometimes even now, right? Because they are, if you look at it from their angle, they are the people who are there in the a small town in Kerala, trying to answer this question about why she's still not married, what is she up to, and so on and so forth. So they have to deal with on a day-to-day basis. And me doing certain things has allowed them to be very secluded from our family, extended family, and so on and so forth. But I think at the end of the day, they have realized that I am better off being left alone. And I think what probably works much in my favor is that I'm someone who will own up to my failures, right? And I'm a generally happy person. And when things go wrong, I will go into that other extreme, but I'll always bounce back. And I've always kept the family in the loop of my decisions. So whether they were conventional or unconventional, I am someone who will still talk to my parents every single day for at least 2 hours, right? That's how my day always has quality time for them, and so on and so forth. I think so. They appreciate the fact that we have agreed to disagree. And there are still certain aspects of my life that they don't agree and that I don't agree. But we have, both decided to mature enough. And it's also me accepting and acknowledging that there are some things about my parents that won't change, that I can't change, right? They were born too late that I can't change some of the things. Something that I have come to peace with in my mid-30s. So I would say I did expect certain changes, certain more changes, but it didn't happen. But now I'm at peace. I'm like, there are certain things you cannot change, and just, deal with it and just be grateful of the things that has changed and that has allowed you to be who you are. So I just tell myself, look at other things, and I just try to be grateful for what I have as opposed to what I cannot change or what I don't have. So that's how I personally have dealt with it.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for answering my question. Thank you to both of you.
Thanks, both of you. We'll take one last question from Aisha.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, Aisha, please go ahead.
Hello. Yes, ma'am. So I wanted to ask about that. So first of all, what I noticed about both of your career journeys was that there was something similar in both of your career journeys, that both of you started following a certain ladder that we all are taught to follow. Like whenever we choose a career, we're supposed to do, like with Nikita ma'am, you started with BTech, then MTech, then PhD. So you followed the certain ladder that people are taught to follow. And then you started to diverge. Like you got a position and you were supposed to go into research by traditional norms, but you decided to go in the entrepreneurship side. So was the transition easy to make? And similarly, Vani ma'am also did the same thing. Like she went into management. Like it is very unlikely. It does not happen here in India that much. So I was curious, did your family welcome it, or the people around you, or was the transition difficult?
very quickly, I would say definitely the transition wasn't difficult, right? Because you do not know for sure if that's going to work. So how I have dealt with it, so I would say always you need to be able to experiment. So I would always take the scientist in me would be awake and say, let's experiment, right? And see if this is going to work. So I closely watch my own journey of how that's going on. And at times I've taken a step back and said, that's not working. So for example, fellowships, I've decided not to go for the second year when I realized I did not want to do a full-time research. So you have to be bold. You have to take calculated risks. You have to talk to people, but you have to still do what makes you happy. And when a time comes where I feel like that's no more giving me a sense of peace, I will decide to stop doing what I plan to do, or I'll decide to continue doing what I was doing. So that's the route that I've taken. So I leave it to Voni to add to this, if anything.
Right, I agree with Nikita. I think our career is also, you know, you are exploring yourself. What is your calling? And as you mature, you understand how important it is to be at peace with what you're doing in your career, right? Because that gives you the real satisfaction. So I think as the career evolves, as we become mature, that's when we realize that, okay, maybe you're exploring yourself. Okay, maybe this is something which I really like. So like Nikita said, you keep experimenting, and that's how your career basically navigates. So yeah, I think that would be from my side. So I think my transition to entrepreneurship came naturally while discovering what I like, what I don't like, and I liked it, and I'm still taking it up. So yeah.
So if in future your interests were to change and you decide to like change up your career again, is it possible that you may want to change it now in future? Will you change it again? Now you have reached, like, we can say, success and are now at like the apex of your careers, but you still have a long way ahead. So will you guys maybe ever change if your interests do diverge?
Yeah, so Aisha? So I would say that career or success, as for me, is not a destination. So that is a journey, right? And I'm sure Voni would agree. So every time you reach a certain level of achievement and so on and so forth, the satisfaction, and it is different for different people. But we'd always go for, you think of what is the next, right? What is it that you want to do next? And so definitely, I think, even now I'm thinking, I'm just thinking, oh, this has happened in Dyson, this is what I want to do, but what next? Because obviously it's not just the professional life or so on, right? Because you as a person will evolve, the people around you will change. My parents are aging, so I want to be more closer to them. So that will also affect my decisions, or my partner. So many things will come and play into, there are so many variables at play. So it's not just one variable change that will force you, or that will help. That evolution is helped by a lot of variables. So I would say, yeah, definitely, I am looking forward to the next one. But as of now, I don't see that as a transition. So I think that, because now, like you said, to your point, we have reached that stage where this has happened many times over. And so now it's very much a part of, okay, I'm just evolving. So, I definitely look forward to what is in it for me next.
That was really interesting to know. Thank you so much for sharing the idea, because I really like the concept that when to give up that you said before. And I was really intrigued by the fact that even though you are changing careers, you still do not see that as a sort of setback, but more like an opportunity.
So I think when I said when to give up is, sometimes we're so fixated on success that you want to hold on to that job, right? Which is making you mentally unhealthy, physically, and all that, just because it's a super amazing job for other people who look at you. So that is when I said, so you need to know when to take a step back, when to say no, and when to step out of certain places, certain people, certain relationships, certain careers. So I think that is applicable across all the different aspects of our lives. So that is something that we, especially as women, need to, unfortunately, be more thoughtful about, because it's not designed for us specifically as of now.
Thank you, Nikita, and thank you, Vani. And thanks, Aisha, for a wonderful question, very relevant to all of us. Darshana, I would like to invite you now to address the audience and close the session. We have already passed the 10-minute mark that I requested.
That's okay. Thank you, Anushila, for asking me to close the session. So I'm really grateful to Vani and Nikita for such amazing session, and also a big round of applause for our girls, for the questions they have asked. And because we record these sessions, I'm sure the future generations of Kalpana girls will draw a lot of insights from these questions. And I just can't thank you both enough, an amazing relatability that you bring to all the girls here, and how they can relate so well with their journeys. Like, a lot of time, I think the reason why it is so important to talk to people like you both is that, okay, if these women can do it, so can I. And I think you both brought that wonderfully today. So I am super grateful to both of you for being so candid, for being so open, and sharing your journeys in such a nice and inspiring manner. So thank you once again. And we both we look forward to sort of having you over and over again and again. And I think one thing I cannot emphasize enough, the support that I have got through my journey in STEM so far from my women colleagues, whether it's Nikita or whether it's my mentors in the last 15 years of my journey in STEM. And I'm very grateful for it. So I hope the girls sitting here today will draw inspirations from your journeys and will create a support system and a tribe that will support them in their endeavors in future. So thank you to both of you. Hope you have a good weekend. And thank you for investing your time in shaping the future of STEM here. So thanks again.
Thank you so much for having us. It was a pleasure.
Thank you very much, Darshana and the Vigyanshala team. A delight to be engaging with you all, and good luck until we meet next time.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
And thank you, Anushila, for conducting it so nicely.
No worries.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye. Take care.